All right, what is good? What is good? Welcome back to episode 7 of Coding versus Programming. I'm Barry,
And this is the
and my
Savage
co-host,
Scientist Ed.
yep, my co-host, partner in crime, Savage Scientist, Ed, Governor of Swampland, back at it again. So we do have a guest on deck, just waiting for them to arrive. But just wanted to kind of start off the show. We're going to talk about Linux. We're going to still talk about that Raspberry Pi. Um, so I will start with this. I have dropped a video, not that I'm trying to plug my video or anything like that, but my goal is the next video, supposed to be done in this video, is to show from start to finish, like when the product arrives, to installing everything, to then booting it up, and then using. So I will do that on the next video, even though I provided, I think, a decent guide where people can get started with desktop Linux. But the next thing we're doing is a RetroPie gaming system. All right, so that's going to be the next video that drops. And then I'm going to do some OBS stuff with it as well. So do you have any plans with some of the stuff that I'm doing, Savage, or got any thoughts?
I mean, I really like the retro gaming thing, man.
Yeah.
That's right up my alley, that man.
So I'm definitely the next one, like I said, it's got to be retro gaming. I know that's something that we can all use, and I'm hoping that people are starting to see, just from the little video and the little talk we did last week, that this system can be a desktop. This system can be a game system, and I'm going to show that. And the next video is going to show you can replace a lot of your retro gaming consoles with the RetroPie.
For sure. My next scheduled video is going to be on data structures and algorithms. And I might be able to, well, I'm planning on doing a live stream soon because I was supposed to have been doing a giveaway. So that's coming soon. And I'm going to be doing a video on a phone I froze way back, the iPhone. I know y'all probably remember me having an iPhone. It broke. So I'm gonna be giving y'all my report on what happened, my scientific analysis of freezing the iPhone. That video's been done for over a year.
Nice.
But that's why people look at me and might say, "Man, I'm posting these old videos," but man, a lot of times whenever you're doing YouTube, a lot of times life is still going on. So if I buy something, I want to use it now. So I'm not gonna have enough time to unbox something and do a review on it. I'm ready to put this radio in my car.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So the bottom line, I'm hoping that what people get out of it. So Bionic Scoop, has a retro-based gaming system using the Pi. You actually used to build them and charge people. I want people to see that you can use something this inexpensive and have a full up entertainment system, have a full up security system with a Raspberry Pi, have a full up retro gaming system. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to do. And of course, we'll do a lot of the programming and coding and all that stuff and show some of that back end. But I'm hoping this will empower people, and they can say, hey man, this cheap little product, it's got some heart to it.
Oh yeah. And game design is one area of computer science or programming coding that is very difficult. I mean, I used to think when I was a kid that I could make a game. And that's the thing that brought me down this computer science journey. And instead of writing games, I became more on the security side of things.
Yeah.
I'm trying to destroy and break stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, and Redbird. So if you're in the chat, kind of put, I know we talked about retro gaming, but what are some of the other things that you would like to see in the Pi? I know Redbird just purchased hers or ordered hers yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So what is something that you need to see or you want to see? Because we're taking requests. We definitely want to make sure that it's worth your while.
Yeah, we have Shay Kennedy. Tech Valor, Mr. Catwoman, LaShawn, Jason. Let's see who else in here. Mark Coleman, Mike, Tech King Mike. Did I say Sean Williams? I think I did. Digital Slang.
Okay. Okay. Music streaming. Oh, Digital Slang, man. I appreciate you coming in from Twitter. Yeah, so Mike said he would be interested in since he's a trucker and he has to do some of these long runs. I will definitely do that, Mike. I will definitely do that. So he would like to see it keeping his truck connected to a TV for the overnight runs. So that way he has, you know, like when you're driving at night, you want to hear something. Like I tell Sneed all the time, like, hey man, thank you for your podcast, right? Because I'm like, I'll look for a podcast I miss, put it on, and it gets me to my destination. So I hear that background noise, right? And it's usually a couple hours. So I will definitely set that up. And I'll come up with a configuration that stays, you know, relatively cool as well. And Sean, I'll do a video on music streaming. You guys let me know what apps you're interested in. But yeah, I'll definitely do one. And with Sean asking it, I'm thinking he's talking about lossless streaming. So like FLAC, you know, lossless audio codecs. So definitely use. Okay, Redbird is doing. Okay, so let me do this. Let me start working this weekend. I'll start working on the retro gaming as well as the music streamer. All right.
Yep.
So
it looks
yeah,
like
definitely.
I was about to say what Mike is doing is he wanting to do something like have broadcast or certain stations, because as you drive you can be going in and out of different markets. So
yeah,
so connected to one market.
Yeah, so he can clarify that. But the bottom line is he would run hotspot from his phone, right? Or if he got a hotspot device, the Pi has Wi-Fi built in, so it's going to be constantly connected to a data connection. So yeah, Mike, if you could clarify if you're looking to use like the Xfinity app on your phone because you're going to be limited to certain channels, or if you need something else.
Yeah, and if you have garbage Cox Communications, which I call XOC, then that means you're going to be using the Contour app.
Okay. All right, cool.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, so hotspot from the phone.
Oh yeah, another one is Fubo. I mean, FOFUBO, something like that.
So this is the thing. What I'll do, Mike, I'll have a separate thing for you. So we're talking in the grand scheme of things that what's making this happen is Linux, right? Linux, the kernel OS, you know. So there's a Linux OS called Twister OS that's not as mainstream, but it's really meant for situations like this. You can have your main operating. So if you watched my video and you saw the desktop, but you can have everything installed, like it's already installed by default, like RetroPie, Steam gaming, and all that stuff. You don't have to add any of this stuff. So what you could do in your case, Mike, is write a little startup script, and I'd help you with it. That when you go into certain modes, like, hey, I'm going to be driving, so I'm in drive mode. Let me just have the TV stations going. Oh, now I'm in bunk mode. All right, now it's the full blown OS. I want to play retro gaming. I want to play, you know, music like that. So real quick, I'm going to pause for here because we have our special guest. So we're adding msfullroller. You've seen her in the chat. Some of you have gone to her streams with me, and let's bring her in. Hey, what's up, msfullroller?
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay,
thank you for coming on.
Forgive me. Oh
no, we understand. We totally get it. We totally get it.
I've been late.
I think it's appropriate. The reason why we wanted to have you on, msfullroller, is I know you use Ubuntu, right? And go ahead.
Actually, I do use Linux, but I use MX Linux.
Oh yeah, that's right. You did say MX Linux. That's right. So yeah, so the reason why I wanted you to come on is as you can see with the Raspberry Pi talk, a lot of people that don't have exposure to Linux are like, wait a second, I can use this. And I'm like, well, wait a second. We actually have veteran YouTubers like msfullroller that run some of her stuff off of OBS and MX Linux. You see what I'm saying? So I was like,
Yes.
so yeah, so like I told you before, this is not a got you broadcast. This is really just exposing everybody to the stuff that we can do. So I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Is how did you get started? Doing what led you down to the path of, oh, I'm gonna use Linux on my YouTube channel?
Well, I've been using Linux since about 2015. What originally made me want to check out Linux, I had this thought long before I'd even heard of Linux, didn't know Linux, Unix, hadn't even heard of it. I always wanted to be able to use an operating system on a USB drive.
Okay.
And could not figure out how to make that work with Windows. Now, I'm not a techie. I can't even say I'm, play one on TV. But I always had that thought when I bought my first USB drive. So fast forward a few more years, and I ran across this book. It's kind of a rebel, type book. I can't remember the name of it, but the author's name is Claire Wolfe.
Okay.
So, and she mentioned using, Linux, that you might want to think about using Linux and, to move away from Windows. Now, I come from starting on the very tail end of Windows 3 and the beginnings of Windows 95. So, I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with, and MS-DOS, of course.
Yes, exactly.
Dabbling in that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with, using the command prompt. So then once I found out about the Linux, I ran across Ubuntu. And I, tried to check it out, and I was like, I cannot figure this out. So I put it down. I didn't even run across it. Then fast forward a few more years, about 2015, I started having, when there was mention of Windows 10 being developed.
Yes.
I started having issues with anytime the graphics driver would be updated from my laptop, I started having issues with it. And then once I finally figured out, well, I can, go back when I finally was able to narrow it down which driver that was. I stopped, that update from happening. But somehow I think they kept kind of, working around that. And then, my laptop just stopped working. But I had another older laptop that I was using on Windows XP. And, you got that blue screen of death.
Correct.
So I'm thinking, the laptop is completely broken. I can't use it anymore. But something told me to hold on to it. So then I found out about Puppy Linux.
Yes.
Puppy Linux is run on, basically you can run it on a thumbnail drive or you can run it on a CD. Now, of course, since I'm, using older hardware, my hardware, one of my laptops, the older one, could not boot up with USB. But I could, load the Puppy Linux and still run it from the USB. So ran with Puppy Linux for a while and couldn't really work it the way I wanted to because I didn't understand about, dependencies and all of that kind of stuff. So I, researched a little bit more. And then I decided, well, let me try Ubuntu. And put it on a USB drive, ran it off of that. And then also, when I wanted to go back to my Windows, I'd run Windows. Then I decided, that I knew a little, I understood a little bit. We're going to try and do a dual boot, put it on the same drive. And then I started having issues with Ubuntu a little bit.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe it's just a bit much for my, my older,
Your PC, correct.
yeah, my laptop. So I said, well, I'm going to try something else. Not knowing anything about master boot record and all of that.
Yeah.
Took it off and completely wiped my Windows.
Oh, yes.
Well, so I said, well, let me go back to Puppy Linux. So I used Puppy Linux for a little while. And then bought another laptop, a used laptop. And I said, I'm going to try. I've heard about Linux Mint, kept researching as far as learning about the different distros. Because at that time, I had no idea. I thought Linux was just like Windows. You just got that one thing. Had no idea you had all of these operating systems. So I heard about Linux Mint, that was, kind of friendly to, newbie folks who don't know anything about, really don't know much about Linux, but are not afraid to, use the computer and have experience, using the command prompt. So I went to Linux Mint and then tried a few other distributions, going back and forth. So yeah, that is how I got into Linux, using Linux. And I did not like the fact that, when Windows 10 was being forced upon people.
Yes, exactly.
I hated that. So yeah.
So let me just we'll pause right here because Jason brought up something. It's like there seems to be many different flavors of Linux while the core remains the same. Does each version offer a different benefit? And that is absolutely the case. So although they might use the same base kernel, they're all focused on certain things. So if everybody's familiar with Steam, they actually came out with their own version of Linux called SteamOS. It was really just focused on being a conduit to their store for games and also a place where they could play games, right? So you have some that are better at being servers, some that are better at being desktops, and some that really get really focused, like Puppy Linux. One of the things that Puppy Linux was like, guess what? We know you can't run that computer, that old PC on Windows 7, and good luck with Windows 10. Well, install us real quick. We can still use that PC, and you won't have to buy a new PC.
Yes.
And that's kind of reason why I'm able to bring Raspberry Pi to this channel and talk about Linux, because it's a low-powered, inexpensive PC board that we can install an operating system on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to piggyback on that. That's and to specifically address his question.
Yeah.
There's different versions of Linux. Some people, they don't like that. However, it allows for different ranges of yours, maybe your specific needs and your specific hardware. Like you've got Arch. Arch runs on the bleeding edge, and is probably a bit better suited for those with a lot more computer, Linux knowledge.
Correct.
Sorry about
Correct.
that.
You good?
Knowledge, and your newer hardware, where on the other end is Debian, which is older. You'll have older. You may have older software, but it's way more stable. It's the only way, if you have a problem with Debian, is because basically you've done something wrong.
You've done something wrong. Correct.
Yeah. You've installed something wrong. You didn't have the the correct dependency, or and you can run it on older hardware. Because I'm using my current PC was manufactured in 2014. I'm running on an i7 3720 QM, third generation.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
and,
to
and
me
you're
the
able
beauty
to keep
of
it.
Linux.
Yeah, that's exactly. And you're able to run your channel.
Go ahead. Chip in my computer. Yeah,
okay.
3770. I have the 3770. What is it whenever you could overclock it? I think it's not the Q. but it's the 3700K. That's it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, the cat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the key is we kind of demonstrated older hardware gets some really good support. And the thing that Linux has that Windows has, I love Linux, I love Microsoft, and I love Mac OS. But the thing about a Mac, and more so a Microsoft, who is going to be pushing them for the operating systems? If you think about Linux, they're not being pushed by PC manufacturers, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is community inspired. So Microsoft really has almost a pecking order that they have to adhere to. They can't come with a lack of support. It's like, oh, well, we really are better suited towards older hardware. No, they've got PC manufacturers like, hey, I'm doing the next best thing. Is your operating system going to be able to utilize everything that I have?
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening, Windows naturally gets, they'll tweak it every now and then, right? But it naturally is going to get bigger and have a bigger gap because it wants to take advantage of the hardware, whereas Linux, they can say, hey, we can do that, go down the Arch road or go down the Debian road and we'll support all your stuff,
Right.
So yeah, so it's interesting how you got there, and I love to hear that. So when you finally got there, Miss Full Roller, how did you find out about some of the, were you on YouTube and you're like, hey, I want to broadcast myself and go live? Is that how you found about OBS? Were you already on Linux at that point?
Yes, I was already on Linux,
Okay.
and of course already on YouTube. I have been on YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's right. You've been on YouTube for a long time. Yes.
I just celebrated my 13th anniversary
Yes,
on
that's right.
the 1st. So
Yes.
but of course at the time live was not an option. It wasn't
Yeah.
available.
Yes.
So it wasn't until with some encouragement from Backyard Gardener when I decided to come, because she was like, you need to start back making videos. You need to start back making videos, because I took a 5-year break from making videos.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I found out about OBS and tried to use it because I was on straight Debian at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And pulled it up. And I guess I finally found out that I'm that type. I'm kind of a slow learner. I have to mess with it, get frustrated with it, put it down.
Yes.
Might be for a while, and then come back to it. So yeah.
So it was similar to me. Like I had Linux, right? But I didn't have a powerful computer. I mean, my Linux computer was just dog slow at the time. So I had to go live because I had a travel team. And that's how I found out, because everybody was saying, oh, we use the OBS on your Linux and so on. And it was like, hey, why do you have such an old computer? You can't use it. So I installed it on, luckily they had a Windows version, but I would have never probably heard about it if it wasn't my time on Linux searching forums like, oh, what you need if you want to go live is use OBS. So yeah, that's how I got started as well. So I didn't start YouTube in the traditional sense. I did it for another reason. So I've been on YouTube for a while. So I still have some old videos of me running practice from my computer at home because I couldn't make practice. So yeah. But this is exciting. I'm excited to see where this goes, because I think, I'm not sure if everybody notices, but on Fridays, Miss Full Roller runs a music stream. So it's not a trivia stream. It's music playing in the back. Sometimes she'll have the chat active. Sometimes it's not, but it's actually playing. So that's one other thing I want to do. I want to set up from start to beginning is a music stream. So going live on a Raspberry Pi and seeing if we can do that, because that would give other people an option. It doesn't tie up your main computer. It's like, oh, well, I'll just start this computer and just let the Raspberry Pi do it,
Yeah.
So I'll give you feedback. I'll let you know, hey, it worked, or it was kind of stuttering, or what have you.
I'm definitely interested in that because of, for that fact that that's what I was thinking about, wondering, could you use OBS on that Raspberry Pi? Because like I say, like I, mentioned
yeah.
I'm using old hardware.
Yeah, so I will try because I know with you, like you have a lot of scenes set up in OBS and all that.
Mhm.
So I'll try it in both ways. I'll try it just as a standard OBS, like if I switch scenes? Is it not laggy? Is it usable?
Mhm.
And then also, can I just use it to do my music channel? Like if I
Yeah.
don't interact with it much, can it just be streaming, playing this music back? So
Mhm.
I'll definitely feed that back. I think that's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I am so looking forward
Yeah,
to that.
yeah. So I have a ton of plans regarding the Raspberry Pi. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and also it's going to introduce people to Linux that aren't looking over it. And not that I'm trying to convert people, but I just
Mhm.
want them to be aware. It's like, hey, they might not have started looking down the Linux path, but they have
Mhm.
been successful with their channels by going down the Linux path.
Yeah.
Most
You
of the
know,
people who own Macs, they are closer to Linux than they might even realize, because
correct.
the
Wow.
Mac OS kernel, as of Mac OS 10, I think,
Hmm.
they switched to a hybrid Linux kernel.
Yeah.
Before
Wow.
then,
They just kind of hide everything, right? You don't see it, right? You don't get access to it, but it's basically Linux in the background.
and that's why, and then to bring that point closer to home is, if you ever notice that if you bring up the Mac command line, that look familiar, that's because that is actually the Linux kernel that you working with when you type ls or ll or ls dot dash l to
Mhm.
show
Mhm.
your files, or if you running Windows dir,
Right.
and you could do all that stuff through the command line. And
Mhm.
I mean, if you
Mhm.
want to look like you are a just straight up computer gangster, go there and just start.
Like that was
You're right. You're exactly
Go to the
right.
command line, and
yeah, that's true.
and like, especially if you're doing IT work, if you don't want people, oh yeah, you can go there. If you could do it from the command line, you're gonna have more respect on
Mhm.
your.
You're right. Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
the game
Absolutely.
is to be sold, not told. So I'm
Yeah.
not gonna go there and show them. The only thing I'm doing at the command line is moving. I mean, the only thing I go up to open up File Explorer and move a file over, or open something. I'm gonna go and nano it so I could look at it and edit the file in
Correct.
the command line,
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
like I said, that's what made me say, well, shoot. I know it's going to be difficult, but I'm not scared of the terminal because, like I
Correct.
said,
Yeah, you
with
got it.
MS DOS, you had to use
You
the
had to use
command prompt.
MS. Like I remember, like Windows, and people don't realize this. Windows, when it first started, like, so I was MS DOS, MS DOS, MS DOS, but it was just something that made it look pretty. I would get into MS DOS. I do a couple of, Windows, do a couple of things, exit to the command line,
Mhm.
because it's like that's where I could get real work done,
Yeah.
at the time,
Yeah.
Yeah, Windows didn't. I mean, yeah, Windows didn't really become independent of DOS until I think Windows 95.
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
95. It was Windows
Yeah,
95.
right
That's when you got the
when-
GUI and all the windows and the pretty stuff.
Correct.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
it was.
Absolutely.
I remember 3.1 though, playing Doom. Yeah, and then and then I learned how to use Windows and get out to the DOS command prompt.
Correct.
We
Yeah,
didn't
because if
have
you weren't playing Doom, it's like, what else were you doing in there?
Yeah,
It didn't have much, So
Mhm.
yeah.
so yeah, I remember those days. But so this is not really when we talk about Linux, it's not that I'm like, hey guys, you need to learn Linux and you have to. It's like, no, you just need to learn enough to save you some money, potentially to do some
Yes.
things around the house for inexpensive that you would be buying bigger products.
Also, let me bring up too. Remember, I said wanting to run an operating system on a USB drive or
Correct.
even a thumbnail drive. You can download one of it, and I would suggest something like Linux Mint or MX Linux or Ubuntu. You
Mhm.
just have to make sure that you set it up, partition it properly so that it will boot. If you do that, and that took me a while to learn as well. If you
Yeah.
do that, you can run have an entire functioning operating system. So if your Windows system goes down or you need to be able to troubleshoot it,
Mhm.
you'll be able to read and access those files as long as it'll
Correct.
boot. If it'll still boot, you can boot into,
Correct.
that thumbnail drive and access those files.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing that so at work we have to use PGP encryption, so the drive is encrypted. But what Miss Full Roller is talking about is what I used to do to save people all the time. We all have people in their family that maybe our parents or what have you that you tell to back up stuff, they don't, and then something happens. I show up with a Linux bootable drive, and oh, I didn't know you could do that. I know you could read my drive. I thought it was protected. I can't read my drive. It's like, well, I can, because even though you have a couple of bad sectors, I can see some of the files, and guess what? I'm going to save your life. Let's start backing up, because you may not, get that lucky, So yeah, I totally am there with you on that.
Yeah,
and you can also play and learn with Linux, and that's safely dual boot.
Correct. Exactly. Which Miss Full Roller mentioned is the master boot record. So there's a master boot record that if you interrupt that master boot record, and I'm saying it nicely, so if you mess it up, you're not booting. You just lost that operating system. Oh yeah. So we've all been there when we've been experimenting, and that's how we know, oh, I'm not supposed to mess with that. Oh yes. All right. So there's some gotchas, and I'm hoping that as I lay everything out on the channel, it's going to be, set up to where we empower ourselves. So make sure if you see something, ask me, send a message to me, Savage. You can even ask Miss Full Roller on some stuff like, hey, Miss Fuller, Barry tried this. Have you tried this out yet? Like if you just hear that she goes, oh yeah, I'm going to try out something. Don't hesitate to contact us.
Yeah.
And you could make a lot of money if you could learn how to recover data, like what Barry was just saying, how you can go in and you have a clicking hard drive or something that's like if somebody done screwed up the master boot record, all they gotta do is get a hard drive dock, plug that into a computer, or even better, a Linux machine, because Linux could read other file formats. So like if you have HF, I think it's called HFS 4 or any type of Linux system, Windows is not going to recognize it.
It's not going to recognize it. Yeah, you need Linux for that.
So yeah,
but you're right. There's a lot of ways. If Scoop literally sold Raspberry Pis with retro gaming, so people actually bought them. He would buy them and then sell them, or someone would buy it. Hey, give them a certain amount. There are people that I know back when DVRs aren't as popular now, but back when Linux was, you could take an old PC and make a DVR and not have to spend $800 in the store for one. I knew people that they used to go over and they would charge a service to someone. They were like, hey, you got an old PC? Guess what? I'm going to turn it into a DVR. So they would just install a capture card, install Linux, set up the whole thing. And the next thing you know, that person's turning, channels and, oh, let me pause TV. Let me, and they were out $100 as opposed to $800 at a Circuit City at the time, or,
Yeah. I just like the open source concept, and especially the concept that I think his name is Richard Stallworth or Stallman, the concept of it.
Yes. Yeah. So just to Savage kind of answer this, and he's absolutely right. I always recommend people that are beginners, and if they're like, I've got a spare laptop that is decently fast, Ubuntu hands down. That's what I recommend that they try first if they have enough power to run it, because it's
Ubuntu or Linux Mint.
Absolutely, those two are great, and they have great community forums as well, where it's like if something's have an issue, you're probably going to get answered right away. You just go to the Ubuntu forums or Linux Mint forums, and people are going to respond.
I'd have to also add MX Linux as well, because MX Linux is based on Ubuntu is based on and Linux. Okay, Debian is kind of on that end. Is the mama of Ubuntu and MX Linux and Linux Mint.
Yeah,
Mint is based on Ubuntu, but it's also pulls a little bit from Debian. MX,
Yes.
MX Linux is based on Debian. And it is, I've only been running it now since that, really bad mess up that I had a few months back. And I decided to try the MX Linux. I'm really liking it. It has a lot of, it's kind of pulled that stability of Debian, and also kind of bringing in a little bit of maybe the higher, because there are later versions of software that's available within that. It has its own installer for the software and all of that, and the GUI and everything. So I would
Okay.
also recommend it.
Okay, cool. So we got 3. Now, I will say those are if you have an older PC, like if it's a Raspberry Pi, I don't recommend you install Ubuntu or stick to the ones that I'm showing in my videos, because the Raspberry Pi, although extremely powerful, like msfullroller said so eloquently at the beginning, if you're trying to do Arch, that was more focused on the higher end PCs, right? So I would think of a Raspberry Pi as like when she mentioned Puppy Linux, so I pretty much every install that I've done for a person like with an old PC has been Ubuntu. I've had some Linux mints. I need to try MX Linux, so I need to give that a shot.
I would say try it.
Another one too.
Which one?
Manjaro.
So Manjaro is Arch, but it's made to be easier. So there's a lot of different distros, and like I said, just DM if you have a specific need. We can kind of point you in the right direction.
But one more thing I want to add to that.
Okay.
Whenever you decide to want to go with Linux, I would just say find a version of Linux and stick with it. And if you hear people talking about this version is better, that version is better, stick with it until you get good enough so you can make up your own mind.
Yes.
I would say, learn everything you could do in Windows or in the operating system you're migrating from, which is easier if you're coming from Mac to Linux, because Mac is based off Linux. But learn everything about the one distro that you decide to go with and get installed, because you're going to keep going down this distro loop and you're going to find yourself missing out on the benefits of running Linux because you're too busy trying to find the perfect distro.
Thank you. And that's one thing that it seems like we're all here on this panel we're on the same page with that. I forced myself to stay with Ubuntu, and every day on those forums, it's like, oh, I want to try this. I want to try this. I'm gonna try this. Oh, I heard this thing has this. This has this. And I stuck with Ubuntu. My favorite version of Linux is Fedora, which I don't recommend for newbies. But I never got there because I kept switching I got there because I got intimately involved with Ubuntu and go, hey, this is really good, but it's better suited for someone else. And this is after years of being, with it. And it's still my top recommended distro, but I happen to like something else better because I got to learn a distribution from the inside out and what I liked and didn't like about it. You're going to say something, Ms. Flora?
Yeah, I would also add to research and find out about your hardware, because your hardware is going to determine a lot of your experience with, with that operating system, because they work hand in hand. The hardware is no good. You can't use it without the operating system. And of course, you can't use the operating system without the hardware. And if you have a mismatch, you may end up creating headaches for yourself that aren't necessary. And then you'll end up running away from Linux going, oh, it's too hard, it's too difficult, this, that, and other, when you've got this mismatch.
Correct. Yeah. And that's a good point, because there are certain, to give you an example, once I switched over to Fedora, I told one of my buddies, I'm like, hey, I'm running Fedora. And he was like, oh, cool. He goes, I think I'm going to install it. And he told me the laptop. I go, oh, don't install it because the sound drivers don't work with your laptop. It's a known issue. He goes, oh, I'll get it to work. So he installed it. And of course, he never got it to work. And guess who doesn't like Fedora? He doesn't like Fedora. It's like, we already told you it wasn't going to work for you.
Yeah.
You know? So,
yeah.
But
yeah, you also too have to be willing to do a little bit of research. See, I have no problem going down the rabbit holes. None whatsoever. With Linux, you do have to be willing to do a bit of the research. And when you're going to the forums, you're going to have to be willing to give people, your information. Don't just say, I got this issue and think that and get pissed off when they're having to ask you, 9,000 questions. Because, they're not crystal balls, they ain't got no crystal ball.
And another thing, when you go into those forums, they have some cocky people in there with these attitudes. Be like, oh, you didn't know chmod.x?
Oh yeah.
Stuff. And if you don't know, that just may change the mode to an executable format. They just tell. I mean, they act like sometimes. Yeah, they at one point in time they didn't know what that stuff means.
Exactly. So, you have that. That's
not accept to be like, nah. If I could just come through this chat and find where you stay, I'm gonna defend the title tonight.
I hear you. Now I have to say I've been lucky that and maybe it's because I've stuck with the Ubuntu's and the Debians and the Linux Mints. Those forums tend to be, I guess, because those distributions, except for straight Debian. But even with straight Debian, they've been, for the most part, pretty nice. Like, so you're always going to have those cocky ones.
Yeah,
I have not run into a whole lot of them. And like I said, I still don't know. I don't know, but one or two of the Linux commands. But I know how to research.
Well, yeah, you can,
exactly. And you know how to
preach commands like they preach in the Bible. I mean,
it's
not about, and I'm trying to sound cocky either. I'm not one of those.
No, I understand where you're coming from.
Whenever you work with Linux enough, you run across these commands enough, and you can be like, oh yeah, I remember that. I mean, you should never just memorize all the commands in Linux. Yeah, you just need to know a few of them. And I might actually do a video. Top 10 commands you need to know in Linux.
Yes, please. Because like I say, even though I've been using Linux for the last, since 6-7 years, I only know, like I said, really one or two that I don't have to go and look up, well, which one is it? Or even know exactly what they do.
Yeah.
So please do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be a great video. So anything that's going to be coming to your channel that you think is going to be driven by your Linux PC specifically? I know right now what you're doing the, the music streams, you're doing the trivia through OBS. I
am getting ready to do my, what little bit I know of OBS. I'm going to go, step by step the settings, and I'm going to put my green cloth back up there. The chroma key, doing how to set up scenes.
Oh, that'd be good.
All that kind of stuff. And still recording. Recording most of my video through using OBS, and then I may go out and have to edit it on my phone.
What's your camera setup that you use? I know about your mic, but your camera setup, because you just basically are using your Linux PC, start OBS, and then start recording.
Yeah, just the webcam, the Logic 9. What is the C920?
Oh, C920. Yeah, great webcam. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. So most of my tutorial videos are just recording on OBS. Just recording my desktop.
Yeah.
So I just got this new mic. I'm really experimenting with it.
He got a blue Yeti. Yeah.
It's blue Yeti. Yeah, and my old one is going back to Amazon. And this thing is real. I really like how you can see the volume levels.
That is nice.
Yeah, that's the reason why I got it. I made a mistake button in the back. Yes.
Oh, I do need to do I keep forgetting I do need to do the video on this mic.
Yeah,
and
that's right. That's right.
the reasons that
Why you
I
went.
chose it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so just so we can play, and I want you to fill in the gaps, just because although I am familiar with you and Savage is familiar with you, I just want to make sure everybody here, even though they should be familiar with you, one of the things that you do on a weekly basis is music streams, and you do a trivia stream, and it's a music-based trivia, and it's usually R&B in different decades.
Mm-hmm.
Um, although you have this long experience, or anything else that you would like to kind of talk about? Like, I know the videos that you have upcoming, but what else are you, or you want people to know about your YouTube journey, so to speak?
Well, I'm also going to convert, kind of figure out how I want to bring the information, my debt-free journey, how to, I want to demonstrate the snowball method. And I've done that on my blog. And I have been wanting to do that, on my YouTube channel for really since its inception. I just have not, haven't gotten around to it because it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of interest. But it seems like there might be now.
Okay.
So that will be coming up. But really my channel is, it's just, it's more of a, full roller, even though, like I said, my name is referring to bowling, but I think full roller, that release, what the full roller is, hitting the entire circumference of the ball. That's kind of what my channel is about, is
Yes.
that it's an entire circumference of life and all those different journeys, that encompass that on the road to getting back to the true self. Because
it's working because
and it's really good, because we've watched a lot of your videos. So your lock journey, I remember the rain barrels, there's a lot of stuff that you've done that has kind of shown the side of you, and kind of put you out there as far as like who you are as a person. And one thing that I have to say that I really appreciate, and I remember I'd forgotten to tell Tech Valor, like the first time that she had come by. I've never seen this in any other stream, and I immediately appreciate it. But if you go to a Miss Full Roller stream, it doesn't happen every time, but you could have like Savage Scientists come in, Jessica Hicks, Cobra, MC Locks and Life. They could come in, right? So the normal people that are there, Miss Fuller, let's participate in the trivia. And then you have people that come in and they're there pretty much every stream, where it's like, teacher, someone knocked over a piece of pizza in the lunchroom. What should we do? And God, I'm not exaggerating. They'll be there the whole stream. So someone will come, oh, I came over, I'm dropping off Machi to the class, teacher, hey, can I sit by and they're the whole stream. They're like, sometimes it's like 8 of them just in there, and they're their whole stream. And without breaking stride at all, I could be asking a question, or Pandy's hair care more could be asking a question like, oh, I didn't know that, man. That guy really did that. I didn't know he sung that song. And someone will say something like that. Hey, he took my water bottle, and not breaking a stride. Miss Fuller will be right there going, all right, you get back the water bottle, make sure you go return to your seat. But I don't know if you've noticed it in other I've never seen it like to the level on your channels, Miss Full World. It's amazing.
I'm not sure how those guys found me. Oh, I think I know what it is. It's for another lady that I moderate from, that I moderate for. And we've kind of taken them, under our wing, being, much older than they are. I'm not sure where the teacher part, started. I just kind of rolled with it. And like I said, they are loyal.
They are loyal. That's the thing. I'm
loyal.
like, there are people in your chat every single time. I'm like, wow, this is incredible.
I keep getting new ones. I don't know where they find me, how they find out about me, but I just kind of take them under my wing and, because like I said, they are much younger. You know, they're very young, not too young to be on YouTube, but you know,
but
they're still young.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just kind of take them under my wing and, you know, try to keep them straight because I appreciate them being there.
So how would you define young? What age range would you?
More than likely, they are not more than likely, because I know for a fact a couple of their ages, anywhere from 18 to about 21.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I am, and I'm not ashamed to say, in less than 2 weeks, I will be 55 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're young too.
So yeah, they're young.
I always look at, you know, we as I get older, I just make young. I just push up the range on young. So I guess when I'm 95, I'll be like, oh, you still young.
Exactly. And then, you know, I like the interaction, because I'm not the type that say, you know, just because you're young, you don't know anything. Because, oh my gosh, I have learned so much, and especially within the Linux world.
Oh yeah.
If it wasn't for these young folks, I'd be in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's been good, but yeah, that I just wanted everybody to, you know, be pre-warned. But it makes it already, you make people feel at home, but it makes it even more of a homey atmosphere during your streams, because you have this other thing going on, you know, and they're the whole time. So
that's my goal. That's my goal. But you guys, for that want to use Linux, I want to make sure to address this. Don't be afraid of it, because there are distributions like the ones that we mentioned earlier that are geared more towards the, I would say, the non-techie. And I'm still kind of, you know, I'm kind of like on the bridge, but it's, you know, geared towards that. And don't be afraid, you know, to try it.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
No, I totally.
Yeah, and I don't consider myself a Linux ninja or anything either. I mean, there are some people out there who really could just, I mean, you know, like especially these hackers out here. I mean, they could do some stuff, and they probably could make Jesus appear at the command line. I don't want to get down or anything, but
but I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
These probably make it so a Jesus image pop up on your screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with me, like I think people, once I do the videos, they're going to get Linux is a tool for me. So I'm not here to sell you on Linux. I'm here to show you that we can implement it. And even if you don't want to learn everything, I just want to show you the stuff that's going to make your life easier. Yes. That's all I'm trying to do. So if it's one of those things where you wanted to kind of do a specific task, we're going to do that specific task. We're going to go in, do that specific task, and come out and not get lost while we do it. So that's my whole goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And I've been getting into some more security stuff on Linux. Really, I've been getting into the cyber security / I guess blue hat hacker. There isn't nothing called blue hat hacker, but I don't consider myself a black hat hacker or a white hat hacker, or not even a gray hat. You know, I'm kind of more on the lines of just learning security, so I could put the information out there for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And real quick, just as a note, I don't know if people are big into Christmas, but the bottom line is, one of the projects I want to do before Christmas gets, you know, here is run Christmas lights, like a music, you know, turning on and off lights with a Raspberry Pi. Mm-hmm. You know, see if we can get that done. And that could be do it in time where people have enough time to set it up themselves if they're into that kind of thing. So they can have one of those cool things that costs a lot of people money where, this cost me $35 and some time, or $50 and some time. I went with the 4 gig version. So that's kind of the stuff that I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I'm definitely looking forward to that. To seeing if you can, you know, if OBS can be run.
Yes, I will. Yes,
I am so looking forward to that.
Yes, that would be cool. So I've got 2 things for you. See if OBS can run it the way you run it, and then it can do your music stream, So yeah. So that's cool.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
If not, then there will be I know there's probably a powerful enough Raspberry Pi that can handle it. Because I know that those things could go all the way up to what, quad-core processors?
Yeah, so the one I have is I've got the top one. I've got an 8 gig quad core processor. Sorry to go through that, but so if it doesn't work with mine, we'll have to wait, but I think
it can though.
I do too.
I really do.
Yeah, so so I'll make a little guide for us and all that stuff, but I think that would be so cool. So yeah. Well, man, I can't thank you enough, Miss Full Roller, for coming on. This is good. Like I said, what Ed Savage, what we try to do is really bridge the gap for people. We want people to see that this might be technology that you don't use, but you can use it,
Yes.
and it's real helpful to have someone come in and it's like, you know what, I use this on my YouTube channel. You see what I'm saying? So like, I've been successful, I've used it, and this is possible, so it's not just me and Ed out here talking, this magic stuff. It's like, no, people are actually using this stuff.
Yeah. I say it absolutely is possible, and it can save you some money,
Can save you some money. And that's what I'm hoping people can see. Like $70 invested into a Pi, and if you already have an HDMI TV or monitor, you just need to hook up a mouse, keyboard, and some power to it, and you're good. You see what I'm saying? Instead of going to the store and buying a whole laptop or desktop.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, man, I can't thank you again. Anytime you want to come back. Hey, I appreciate you coming. This made our day. So we
what about
look up to you, and we enjoy coming to your stream. So yeah, it was great having you on. You have
What'd
anything?
You say, Savage?
I was going to say,
they might have some people with some questions in the.
Oh yeah. So real quick,
yeah.
If you have any questions before I was about to end the show, the good questions, Savage. Good. If you have any questions, Miss Full Roller, let us know, and we'll ask away.
Do I have any questions, or do they have any questions?
No, do they question you? Yeah. Do you have any questions of Miss Full Roller?
Floor is open.
Because I'm not looking at the chat.
No, you good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't use StreamYard's chat. I always pop out the chat, have the real chat running.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have have YouTube open, because like I said, I got the I got the time. I'm thinking, because see, I'm on Central.
Yes. So you thought I was sending?
Exactly. And I looked up, I said, oh my God, I'm supposed to be there.
That's too funny.
I was like, oh yeah, he 1 o'clock. The message said we about to get ready to roll the start. Oh man, I thought it was 1 o'clock Central.
Yes. Oh God. So I so apologize for that.
No, you're good. You're good. We just glad you're here. This was good.
But yeah, I guess I did definitely want, if anybody is leaning towards towards it, if you've got a little bit older PC that's kind of struggling with Windows 10.
Yes, yes. And I'll tell you, my main PC for a while, because I was like, I'm not buying money on a PC that my kids use. Windows 7 just brought it to his knees, and it was like, do I build another PC? Oh, put Linux on it. So
another way of saying it, if you have a computer with a Celeron processor in it,
put Linux on it.
You need to hurry up and take Windows off of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I say that's what the one that I have, the other one, not the one that I'm using now. My other one, that is what made me go on the search for the Linux, because like I say, it had the Windows XP, and Windows XP brought it to its knees. It has a Celeron.
Yeah,
it's got a Celeron processor.
That's one of the things that made you be like, why would Intel even do this?
Exactly.
Because it was cheaper.
I mean, that's a nasty processor there. That thing is. I'd rather. I mean, it's almost like, what is it, like a old they done bought the Pentium 1 back to life or something. I mean, that thing
Mhm.
Yeah.
junk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it
Oh,
looks like we don't
man.
have any questions, so we will end this right here. But again, I appreciate you coming on, Miss Fuller. This was awesome for us.
Thank you so much for the invite. I'd really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
like I said, hopefully, that I can put that seed, just like the seed was put in for me, as far as about the Linux, that it's out there and
Yeah.
it's available. And it's come a long way, as far as I'm not just being for the, the strict tech, tech noobs,
Mhm.
tech nerds,
Yeah.
regular people can
Now that
use
you're
it
running
as
Linux,
well.
you can't really say that you're a newbie with tech. When you step into
Correct.
Linux, it's kind of like it's kind of like now you have the title of being a bona fide nerd almost. You are not part of the geek squad.
Oh,
Or
I'm a
you are
nerd now.
you
I'm a nerd.
you earned your tech title.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
We have
thanks again. Thanks again. And anytime we'd love to have you back on. So this was awesome.
so yeah.
I'd appreciate that,
Great.
and I will be back, and hope
Right.
and we'll do it on time this time.
You good. You good. All right, everybody. Well, for Miss Full Roller and Savage, this was Coding versus Programming, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.